What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Saturday, October 9th, 2021, and we got another Pocket Change market report dropping for you today. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic start to your weekend, and hopefully this video will give you a little bit of inspiration as you go out there and you search through your daily kind of like hotspots, whether you like searching, bank rolls or big, large masses of coin, wherever you could find those at. Apparently it's a thing, supposedly. But in addition, there are coins that you could also cherry pick from local coin shops, or maybe a show is your thing. Maybe you have a show going on this weekend, you want to check it out, and you want to, discover some really cool stuff for not a lot of money. And then at that point, it's really up to you if you want to add it to your collection, which I know a lot of people like to do, or they just want to go out there and make some extra money. We are, in the holiday season. In case you guys haven't checked your calendars lately, we are nearly in the middle of October. We're already 9 days in, so it doesn't afford a whole lot of opportunity to go out there, find some stuff, and then turn around and sell it, so that way you have a nice little honeypot for the holidays. But fortunately, we're still pretty early in the season. You guys can do that while you're still able to find bankrolls out there. Now, I know things are a little skimp. There's a, coin shortage in the talks and the works, behind the scenes. Don't know if that's the case. Some of you have a much easier time finding some bankrolls more than others, myself included. I'm having a kind of a hard time, but that's okay. Definitely more opportunity for you guys to check out some of these coins. Today, just a jam-packed episode with a lot of great coins, and normally I say I don't talk about graded coins, but I think I made an exception just this once. In this video, there's an important coin you guys need to know about. You guys probably already saw the thumbnail, so the cat's really out of the bag. But we have a number of hot coins that have come out in circulation within the last 2 years that are still continuously pounding the secondary market with just some unbelievably high prices. You guys definitely need to know what these coins are, so as you come across them, you're going to be aware, and then you know exactly what the value is going to be. What I also wanted to do, as we go through the sales in this video, I'm going to tell you which ones are being bought up at like a buy it now price, because when you list an item on eBay, you could start out the price with a value that you think is very comfortable for you. You don't want to obviously give away a coin. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I will notate whether or not these were like a one bid type of sale. Maybe the seller started it at X amount of dollars and that's what it sold for. But all in all, let's go ahead and jump right in. Pretty nice episode that we have lined up for you. All the coin images are raw, based off of what the sellers have put into their listings. So if some of the images are out of focus, that's on them. But we're also going to talk about some photo tips as well as we go along. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the first coin. And for those of you that know me, I like any sort of like minor type of attributed errors on Lincoln cents. And that's across the board. We have a 1954S Lincoln wheat cent. As you guys know, I have an affinity for what they call the BIE die chips. So that's a little thin die chip that connects the B and E in Liberty together. And it looks like a letter I. So that's why it has that namesake of a BIE die chip. But when we come in close to this one, you could see that die chip connecting the B and E in those letters of Liberty. And 54S is a much tougher date to find. We do have one that we're going to talk about later in the episode that is a much more common date. But 54S, a little bit tougher to locate, and especially those higher grades. If you guys missed it, it's a really nice mint state red example. And this one sold for $32.45. It was a buy it now listing. Someone had thrown it up for what I think was $32.45 with free shipping, and someone scooped it up. So there are certain coins where you don't want to necessarily list them as a traditional auction format. Just go ahead and throw them on there at a specific price that you are willing to accept and just let it ride. It might take a month, it might take 6 months, it might take 2 years for it to sell. But the idea when we're trying to be successful at selling coins on eBay is that you don't give away things for free, number one. Number two, you want to be able to feel comfortable with setting what is supposed to be the market price for these coins. So this coin right here wouldn't make sense if you threw it up for, say, $199 because they don't ever sell for that. You got to be a little bit realistic as well. So this is just a fantastic sale. If you come across like a BU roll with a whole bunch of these BIE die chips, that's going to be a big money ticket item right there. The next coin that we have here is a 1971 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This is one of my favorite dates of finding a very specific variety. This one is the doubled die obverse FS101 in the Cherry Picker's Guide variety. Okay, it's a very nice, very dramatic type of doubling. But before we get into the actual close-ups of a few of the doubled areas, I'd like to also mention that the seller did notice that this one has a little bit of a misaligned die issue going on. So when you look at the obverse of the coin, which is the front, that's the side with the date on it, you notice that it has a much considerably thicker rim on one side. Okay, so the dies were slightly a little bit misaligned, more so the hammer die, which is the die that actually moves quite a bit more, respective to the reverse die, or what they call the anvil die. But that's also a minor kind of aspect to this coin. Might have added or maybe subtracted a little bit of value from the actual variety. But when we get in close, whoa, man, this thing is lights out. It's quite strong. You're going to see the strongest doubling on the word liberty above all else. And normally this is what you're going to look at when you're trying to identify an FS101 DDO. Aside from that, the coin is in decent shape. It's I would say a high-end AU condition coin with some mint red in there. Another place to look out for more doubling is going to be the motto. It's not nearly as fun to look at, but you could see just a doubling in the word God, especially toward the top of the letters is where you're going to see some of that as well. This coin through 2 bids sold for $19.44, which is a pretty solid sale considering this is actually a very common variety. So these are out there to be found. Keep in mind, most circulated examples will command that $10 to $25 range. The next one that we have here is a 1978 Washington quarter. This particular coin has been, well, it looks funny, first of all. It looks like it's not completely struck up on certain, edge of the coin, but this one was inadvertently struck on a nickel planchet. All right, so you guys know a nickel planchet or blank is a little bit smaller than a Washington quarter blank. So when a nickel blank or planchet was fed into the striking chamber of a Washington quarter, it's not going to strike up the entire quarter because it's a much smaller blank to work with. So you see that right here. You can see some of the dates cut off. You have a very irregular edge through, I would say, 50% of the coin there, and it's also apparent on the reverse as well. The coin is in pretty nice shape. You don't typically see these that often, but when you do, it's a really nice example. It is going to be slightly smaller than a traditional Washington quarter size. And this one sold for $154.75, which is an incredible amount of money for this error type. All right, so here's another coin, realistically, you guys can find in change today, especially for those of you that are east of the Mississippi. So there's more than a fair share of you living up and down the eastern seaboard and down into the south where you could find these coins still. And it's not really that old. It's a 2017. Yes, it does have a P mint mark. It's the only date of Lincoln Cent that has a physical P mint mark and the only one that you'll ever see. But this one right here has a really nice set of die clashes, most notable on the obverse of the coin. Now, when we get in a little bit closer, that's where you're going to see some of the strongest clashing from the shield on the reverse that have clashed onto the obverse die at one point. So there was no coin fed in the striking chamber or blank. The dies simply clashed together as if it was doing a strike, but, the devices kind of clash onto itself. So you have the obverse details on the reverse and the reverse details on the obverse, and you guys get the big picture. But what I like most about the strongest die clashes of the Shield Scent series is where you begin to see some letters from the reverse on the obverse, like E pluribus unum, clearly right there. Very nice error, and one in which that you could find today. If you have a lot of like pennies to go through, or you have banks that are willing to play ball and actually give you Lincoln Cent rolls, this is a great one to look for. This coin, ladies and gentlemen, just out of nowhere has seen a little bit of resurgence in actual value. 6 bids altogether, and this one sold for $53.75. Very nice coin. Here is a full roll of what I expect to be quarters. Now, there are going to be certain coins where it just doesn't make any sense to sell them singularly. So sell them in bulk. That's another good idea, especially if you come across just simply a massive amount of the same type of quarter, the same national park, the same statehood quarter, whatever it is. If you have a bunch of these and they have like little minor die chips and things like that, like what you see on this San Antonio Missions roll of quarters, and there's 40 coins altogether. But, if you find stuff like this where you have little die chips, like say on top of this bell tower here, you have a few other die chips all coming off of certain devices on the coin, these are not going to be worthwhile to sell individually. All right, and here's another one right here near the date at the bottom of this horn or whatever this is right here. So 40 coins, you sell them all, put them in a roll tube, and you can sell these for a decent amount of money. This roll with shipping sold for $34.95. It was actually a buy it now listing. There wasn't like a ton of bids, so it was like, if you see the value, you want it, because you could do like a die progression type of collection for this one particular coin. People do collect doing that. So people will pay whatever is an acceptable amount of money for this roll of coin, where $35 is pretty good, but it sure beats just sending it back to the bank for $10 face value. Here is, I guess, probably the flavor of the year. There's a few coins that kind of fit that particular profile for 2021 coinage. I love talking about this coin because it continues to impress me every time I see a new strike-through type of the Tuskegee Airmen. Keep in mind, these are brand new 2021 quarters. It's the last quarter in the National Park Series. And they are also Philadelphia minted coins. But check out the reverse, right? The burning building appearance on here, with a big old fireball. And look at this. There's even a fireball going through the air right here. This is probably one of the most incredible strike-throughs I've ever seen on the Tuskegee Airmen. Because normally, they're isolated just to this strike-through area on the building. And you don't normally see this fireball, kind of like a missile, coming off this airplane right here. It is phenomenal. This is probably one of the best ones I've ever seen, and because of that, it has sold for $94.74. Yeah, there may not be a West Point coinage to find like we did back in 2019 or 2020, but I guarantee you there is a lot to love with this year's coinage. And based off of all of the coins I've talked about from 2021, whether it's pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, man, take advantage of the missteps of the U.S. Mint. They are still not up to par with employees and quality control. So there's obviously going to be more gaps in the system. There's going to be more coins like this where you could take advantage of it. And for the people who are saying that the quality sucks through the Mint, yeah, it is. It's bad. But guess what? I like it because of coins like this and the amount of money that you could capitalize on. Here's guess what? Another 2021 coin. This time a nickel, and it is also a Philadelphia minted example. Picture's not too great on this one. It's a little bit too dark, not enough light, obviously. But yeah, these, we've seen them in previous dates. And this one is just what they call a beehive die chip. It's right on the side of Monticello or Monticello, or however you want to produce or say the name of the building. But yeah, the Beehive die chip has been something that's been collected quite a bit and quite loved for like the last like 5 years. And people are paying more than probably you would think these coins are worth. This one sold for $7, and the coin is circulated. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. So it's not like this super high-end example, but, you know, it is probably a progression of some type that someone's looking for the Beehive die chip. And again, these have value. If you find them, put them aside. I mean, you can't really, you know, forego $5-10 for these coins. It just doesn't make any sense. You might as well make the money while it's there. Here's a pretty nice cherry pick. I mean, to a lot of people, it doesn't look like much. You know, it's not a super high grade coin. Yeah, it's an 1870s, you know, so some would say that that does kind of, you know, mean something in terms of its you know, rarity, which isn't too rare. I could find an 1875 in decent shape all day long. But this one right here has a nice retained lamination on the reverse here. So it's right here. It's quite a nice size too. But generally, this is a coin that you could pick up for about $3 to $5. It is one of the more common 1970s dated Indian head cents. This one sold for $23.39. That's it. Not a bad flip. Same one with this one. You know, it's a relatively decent coin. You still have a readable date, so there is that. 1920s Buffalo nickel with a lamination on the obverse. Buffalo nickels and some of the dates of Jefferson nickels have had pretty poor annealing issues, and it shows, you know, especially when you see a lot of laminations come up in auction listings. And they're all quite mediocre sometimes. Some of them are quite nice. I mean, this one's kind of like, I would say, like right down the middle. It's probably more like a fine 12 condition. You do have a partial horn. Nothing really to write home to mother about. This one also sold for $23.70. Here's one of my favorite varieties. 1956 Denvers have been the source of date and mint mark where you could find just a ton of different varieties. This one right here, certainly top of the list for how dramatic it is. 1956 D over D RPM. As you can see, the secondary Denver mint mark is slightly west of the primary, and it shows. In certain cases, this is a mint mark variety that you could see with the naked eye, but it always helps to have a really nice quality magnifier. Something like 7 to 10 times power is suitable, you know, just for regular collecting and cherry picking. So make sure you have a magnifier. If you don't have them, I have them down below in my description box. I have Amazon affiliate listings. I do get paid just a slight amount of money for these sales. But if you need them, buy one. The magnifier, the loop, is an important part of your tool chest when you are searching coins out. Make sure you have them. By the way, that 56D over D sold for $18.75 through 5 bids. Here's the 1955D. This is also our other BIE die chip coin of the week. This, however, is one of the most common dates that you can find this anomaly on there when you look up close. This is just one type of BIE die chip that you could find for this date. There are a number of them for this date to find, and they all range in different sizes and shapes and all that. People do like to collect them, so that way they have every shape and size and attributed type. If you need more information, check out the Cuds on Coins website. They have all of the attributions for the BIEs. And you never know, you might come across a new discovery. If that's the case, you could get your name cemented in history at that point by submitting your good, clear images to those folks there on that website. And they will add it with your name. I mean, who could beat that? And that's like 15 minutes of fame, and I think everyone is deserved of their 15 minutes. This one right here sold for $5.97. Again, showing you the great contrast in value from a much tougher date of BIEs to one of the more common ones. But it's still, I mean, you know, it's $5. Don't overlook things like this. Well, I believe this is our first paper money listing of the week, and it's pretty cool. This is a solvent smear. As you can see, it's, you know, people call them an ink smear as well. but just a run of ink that had blotted right onto the sheet at one point. This one is a 1969 $1 Federal Reserve note, so it's a little bit older, but you can find these all throughout various date ranges of Federal Reserve notes. This one, of course, you're going to have black ink on the front face of the note. Normally, you won't see any other color of smear on here. And the same goes on the reverse. The reverse is, by the way, clean on this one. It's a nice, decent note. The reverse, you'll see green globs of ink smear. So you need to know that difference. This one sold for $49.95. All right, well, we can't go another episode without talking about the huge, ginormous die chip on top of Washington's hat. Okay, this is the Washington crossing the Delaware 2021 P quarter. This has been the other flavor of the month. Okay, it's either pralines and caramel, and the other one is mint chocolate chip or Rocky Road. These are certainly been the talked about coins for 2021. I remember when these first came on the scene, they were selling somewhere in the like $60 to $80 range. They've gone up quite a bit, but that's only a result of less supply hitting the market. This one, through 9 bids, sold for $144.25. The reason why it's selling for so much is that there aren't nearly as many out there, and when you're talking about the error community, they are quite rich and they are quite big. All right, so when they see something that is just truly magnificent, I mean, this is a huge die chip. For some of you that are saying, I can't believe this thing sold for that kind of money, it's hogwash. Well, take a look at the die chip, right? It's obscuring E pluribus unum. All right, and those are the things that matter to collectors. When they begin to obscure other devices on the coin, that's where it becomes a much more relevant coin than it looks like. Yeah, to some of the purists, this is like nothing. But heck, I mean, if the market is commanding $125 to $150, why not move it and buy something that you truly like for your collection? All right, so I gotta tell you this. One particular seller on eBay has been kind of like cornering the market for the Wounded Eagle / Speared Eagle Reverse 2000p sack dollar. Why aren't more people trying to look for this? This individual, I firmly and strongly believe, is going through so many bags of golden dollars and presidential dollars, and they are doing a really good job because they're continuously selling like maybe 2 or 3 of these a week. They're coming across them. Yeah, they're not the highest graded examples, but the market is the market. The Wounded Eagle reverse coin has always been a popular sell. I mean, if you guys need another refresher, that's what that looks like. You have 2 apparent die gouges that goes right through the breast area of the eagle. Here's the other secondary smaller die gouge. You know, I mean, it's a good one. And this one, through 4 bids, the coin is not in great shape, by the way. It's got a lot of rim dings and all sorts of other things. Sold for $113.79. This is a perennial favorite amongst its collector base. Here's a 1929 Lincoln wheat cent. Okay, so the hot point about this coin is its appearance. Eye appeal can be everything to a coin. This is what they call a woody. All right, it's simply a improper alloy mix of the copper and the tin that comprise the composition of the coin. When they're not properly mixed, they'll have a really nice, beautiful wood grain appearance to it. This is on both sides, albeit the reverse image is quite a bit darker. You can't really see it to its effectiveness. But this sold for $8.55, and that's with 3 bids. So this woody appearance has its collector base, and people are collecting these by date. For all you $half-dollar roll hunters, I mean, here's another reminder that this coin does exist, and this is not a fantastic example, by the way. 1974D, this is the FS101 doubled die obverse. Now, this coin is quite circulated and quite beat up, quite honestly. Beat up in a sense, the devices are not that great. The coin is circulated and worn down. But you could tell, just so the overall thickness of the coins, you can see the doubled serifs in certain areas. But the bottom of the R, where it's normally the strongest, of the doubling has taken a hit. So that's like one of the most appealing parts of this DDO, and it's not there. It's not great because it took a timely hit in a spot where you don't want it to. But if you guys are looking for silver, this is good as silver. It's sold for $6.50. Sell it, buy yourself another 90% half dollar. It's that simple. And for those of you that aren't looking through your silver scrap Morgans, shame on you. 1921 has been the most plentifully produced date out of any other date of Morgan dollar. 1921, Philadelphia, 21D, and 21S. These three particular branch mints have an insane amount of top flight VAM varieties. There are quite a few, not only top 100 coins, but there are hit list, 40 or whatever you call it, and then the top 50. So if you're not searching these coins for some of these varieties, you're missing out. There's the Thornhead variety. I believe that's on the 21S as well. That coin in this condition, as you see on screen, is worth many hundreds of dollars. But this one is a different VAM. This is VAM 6A. This is what they call the spiked BU in E pluribus unum. And it's really just a die scratch that goes from the B to the U. You can actually see the point of it going through the U and into this inner curl right here. This is a big one. And hit list 40, keep in mind a scrappy 90% Morgan dollar like you see here is generally like 25 bucks. This one sold for $64.95 as a buy it now option. The seller, believe it or not, had 13 of these available and he had sold through 10 of them. Now talk about opportunity. If you're looking to make money, this is one great way of doing it. Identify a variety, seek it out. You know, you're kind of playing with house money here. You're buying these coins for scrap silver value. Okay, you go through all the coins, you look for these varieties, make sure you isolate them to like the top 100, hit list 40, and the top 50 as well. And you just pull out all these good ones regardless of condition and make money. That's how you do it. $65 sale, really fantastic. By the way, he has 3 left if you're interested in this variety. Now this is a cool one, 2009 $1 Federal Reserve note. All right, it's a much newer type of note. This this paper money piece is in pretty nice shape as well. But you have a front to back wet ink transfer. So as these sheets are being produced and they're all stacking after taking its printing, they're all stacking and they're all a little bit wet still. So this is a complete 100% front to back wet ink transfer again. On the wet ink transfers, the offsets, all the letters will be in reverse. Okay, so that's how you know that it's a legitimate wet ink transfer. This note right here through 27 bids sold for $75.99. Here's a 2018 Block Island National Park quarter. Now keep in mind, you notice that there's a little S mint mark. It's not a proof coin. These were actually produced as uncirculated strikes, and they were only available from the U.S. Mint in these rolls, like 40 piece rolls, or I believe 100 count little mini bags. So that was the only way that you could obtain these. Now this one right here, the seller had thought it was a broad strike. It's not. You know, just looking at it, it's obviously been struck through by quite a bit of grease on that hammer die, and as noted here, you see a lot of the details are missing on this particular coin, which is quite cool for a limited run S-Mint coin. This one sold for $17, and that's with 16 bids. The coin does look like it's circulated quite a bit too. Here's we don't have too many off-center struck coins. All right, we changed it up a little bit this week, so I think we have like 3 or 4 for the total broadcast. Normally have like 8 or 9 of them. Here's a 2001 Lincoln Memorial. This is one of the more common dates for this error type. This one is off-center by about, I would say, 15-20%, somewhere in the middle there. I mean, it's a really nice shape. But again, it is one of the more common dates of off-center struck coinage of the modern era. So between like 1998 to 2001, more of these exist out there. This one sold for $15.25. Here's a 1999 Lincoln Memorial. This time we have a broad struck example. So you see the coin is much bigger. It's probably close to the size of a nickel at this point. But this coin was struck without the collar fully in its position before the strike. And all that metal flow went outwards, you know, kind of like pancake mix after a while. And this one right here sold for $7.50, and that's with 4 total bids. And of course, we're also going to take a quick update of the wide AM market. There has been a few 98 wide AMs sold this week, and they're all quite circulated. Here's one that looks like it just came straight out of change. I mean, it's a decent example if you need one. This one right here has that pretty wide gap between the A and M. On the normal types, the A and M are touching right at the base. So this one here, again, it's one of those coins, after you've seen a number of them, you can identify them with the naked eye. That's the cool part. This one sold for $11.20. So good value here. Look out for these 98s and 2000s for the folks on the East Coast are quite common to find. So easy money. Now, what we have here is the 1999 dollar bill, Federal Reserve note. Yeah, check out the top left part of the note right there. It looks like there is a little bit of an obstruction, which is what I would think is the case. You know, it's probably a torn piece of paper that was on the subject sheet before the first printing had gone over. And it's quite sharp and strong, and normally that's what you would want to see. There's going to be no really fade to that transition between the actual paper color and the inking. This particular note is pretty well circulated. It does have a darker stain on the top margin here on the back. It's quite clean on the front. But this note right here sold for $12.50, and that's with 7 bids altogether. So it's a minor error. These do pop up on occasion, but people do want, collectors want, much nicer condition notes. Oh boy, good old American Samoa, bat with issues quarter, right? This was the flavor of last year, 2020, and we're still talking about it because people are still finding them. 2020 Philadelphia American Samoa ATB quarter with this one has a little minor strike through right on its face, and then you have a few feeder finger scrape lines, okay, which are pretty common. In this particular case, this is a much minor type of this error, and it's still managed to sell for $18.95. The coin has circulated a little bit too, so it's not a perfect mid-state example. Here's a 2019. Again, we're still in modern era of coinage. These things are out there. 2019 Philadelphia Shield set that has been struck through quite a bit of grease, as you can see, on both sides. So there was some grease on both the hammer and anvil dies. This one sold for $14.70. So you have quite a bit of weakness on both sides. A lot of the devices are obscured. All right, so we've highlighted this seller before, but they had thrown up another 6 coin lot listing of errors. They all are off-center struck. A couple of them have what I see to be dates. We have a 1987 here and a 1980s something right here. The pictures are still a little bit dark. But again, you know, if they have like bulk lots of coins with non-readable dates, I mean, this is one way to sell them, but on the buyer side, you always look out for things like these. If they sell or go for too cheap, it's a great opportunity to pick them up, turn around, sell all the coins individually. And again, the idea is to double up your money. This one right here sold for $43.92. That's with 16 bids. This one is probably outside the range of like feeling comfortable with buying it to where you can make money. I doubt you could double up on something like this after it's sold for over 40 bucks. Maybe 25, 30 bucks, like the last few listings that it sold for. Those would feel a little bit more safer, but I think this one's all maxed out. Well, this one's cool. I haven't seen this one in a while, so it's been a hot minute. It's the 2020. This is a West Point, by the way. So it's got that V75 privy mark. The pictures are not fantastic, but I am more than fortunate that the reverse image is crystal clear. Now, the pictures, if you looked at the original listing, were all kind of like twisted and turned and rotated. So I had to do a little bit of video editing work to get them upright so that way you guys can see what I'm looking at. But this one has a pretty nice rim-to-rim bisecting die crack that goes through all of these leaves on this, what is that, mangrove or whatever you call that. But it goes from rim to rim, and it goes through the Salt River Bay, which is cool. Surprisingly, this coin sold for $44.75. These are still out there, I would imagine. If you guys have like a group of West Point Salt River Bays, make sure you look out for these. Now, here is a pretty cool listing. I'm glad to have found this one. You don't see this that often, but this is a full roll of 2009 Sacagawea Dollars. And this is the year that they began to do the modified different types of reverses on them. And they all had the edge lettering, all right? So they had adopted the edge lettering that came out on the presidential dollars starting in 2007. So this roll of 20 coins, so it's $20 face value, they were all missing the edge lettering, all right? So these are MELs, and this is actually quite a tough date as well. But here you go, 20 of them found in one listing, in one roll, which I would venture to guess that some of these are going to end up being graded. But a full roll of these coins ended up selling for $1,011.95. I mean, what in the world? That seems like a lot of money. I mean, what is that? That's $50 a coin, you know, at the minimum. Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, if you come across these, there you go. That's one way to really make an impact on the old wallet. Now this one's cool. This is just there's no date, Lincoln Memorial cent. This one was struck through a cap die, but it also has a brockage, which is kind of cool. A really tremendous error, very dramatic, very eye-appealing, in great shape too. Sold for $65.21. Here's a 1965 Washington quarter. This is like an old school collection piece. This one right here looks to be, well, it's broad struck. So it's a slightly off-center broad struck. It's got a partial collar as well. So the collar was a little bit tilted. You don't have full reading on one side of the coin. But this was also just holed up, you know, probably back when the coin first came out. 60 years ago or whatever, in a regular manila tiny little envelope with writing on it. This is how we used to do it as recently as like the late 80s. You know, we used to put the coins in there, and sometimes when collectors put their silver coins in these envelopes, they came out with some pretty spectacular toning. So this is how we used to do it back in the day. I even had an old friend that used to do it into the 90s. But this one sold for $32.50. Which is not too bad, actually. Here's a 1981 $1 Federal Reserve note. This one exhibits another wet ink transfer. This time it's a back-to-front style of transfer. It's full, 100%. And as you can tell, all of the devices on that second strike or second printing are in reverse. So I can't, I can't talk sometimes. But yeah, it's not a strike. We don't strike dollars and we don't misprint coins. But yeah, the printing is in reverse. They're mirrored, so that's what you want to look at. This one sold for $154.96, and that's with 28 total bids. There's the reverse of the note. Nothing of note other than the fact that it's in really nice shape. Here's a 1987. This is a Jefferson Nickel. So this might have been a relist. I'm not sure. I talked about this one a few days ago. But this one right here, another resale, off-center by about, I don't know, 75%-ish. Sold for $28.75. Now, we don't normally associate repunch mint marks on the much later dated coins, especially after 1990, which the U.S. Mint had stopped hand punching the mint marks into the working dies. They were all integrated as part of the total process, as far as engraving. So, yeah, you were still able to find repunch mint marks on 1980s Lincoln cents. 1986 doesn't seem like an overly attractive date to find anything cool, but look at that thing. That is a really cool repunch mint mark. Again, these, unless you're looking for them, nobody knows that they exist. This one sold for $20.95, and this is RPM number 1, by the way. We got a few more listings to talk about before I let you guys go for the weekend. Here's a $1 bill, 1995. All right, this note was found very early. It was probably found in a strap or something because it's quite new. This one right here has an apparent error. So what is it? Well, it's a misalignment of the first printing. The first printing is this black print right here. All right, so they call it overprint or whatever. But the third print with the serial numbers and the district seals are all perfectly placed on the actual sheet. The reverse is even perfectly centered or pretty close to it. I mean, it's got great margins. It's not really shifted one way or the other. So we had a misalignment of the sheet as it's being fed for that first print. And this one, wow, sold for $146.69, and that's with 55 total bids. But if you think this $1 bill is just bonkers, the last coin that is apparently graded, because I told you guys I would talk about a graded coin, was a coin that we had already talked about on the show. But to a bigger degree, it is the American Samoa, this time a Philadelphia coin, but take a look at the size of the strike through on the reverse. This is one of those Black Swan event type of coins where it features just the most incredible, obscene strike through that covers a subject on the coin in nearly its totality, like face-wise. That bat has no face at all. Yeah, this is the biggest, baddest strike through that I've seen on this quarter probably ever. I think I've probably seen one nearly as radical as this one, but that was a good year and a half ago, and that coin ended up selling for I think like $300. But this one, ladies and gentlemen, is a graded PCGS Mint State 64. Keep in mind, the grade is not that fantastic. That's like kind of what you would expect for a coin that has been, issued into circulation. Like if you went to the bank, you got a roll, and it's like a full roll of this, and you pulled out that coin. It's going to have its little nicks in circulation, kind of bag marks and things like that. Mint State 64 is not a top-end grade, but it's graded nonetheless by a grading company. And this, ladies and gentlemen, realized $1,250. Now, I would say it's worth the $100 to grade it. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, if you had one that has a strike through as big as this one, I would say without hesitation, grade it and make a few dollars on it. This coin, ladies and gentlemen, is just over a year old. And it's a Philadelphia Mint. It's not like you have to look for a West Point one. You could find a Philadelphia minted example of this coin and really, really rake in some money. $1,100 net, or let's say after fees and stuff, it's ended up being about $1,000, is a considerable, somewhat life-changing amount of money for a lot of people. Now, I can't speak for everyone. $1,100 might be a drop in the bucket, but damn, this coin will bail you out of a month's rent or 2 months rent, or it depends on where you're at, right? Or puts food on the table, pays off bills. It takes care of a lot of things, but that's why we do this hobby, for the fun, for the possibilities, and its history. It's rich history, and normally I don't advocate for grading coins. That's probably the last thing you want to do, because you're pouring money into something that isn't really in your control at that point, because grading really is subjective. It either is or it isn't, based on someone else's opinion. But when you see things like this, I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore. So keep that in mind as you go on with this hobby. There are going to be opportunities like this, the same way that on our live coin Q&A channel, we talked about a 1992 D Close AM Lincoln. That's worth a few $1,000s, by the way. That someone had submitted, the 69S that someone had found under their bed in a cache of coins in a little box. That's ended up being a 5-figure coin. there are a lot of things out there that could certainly, be life-changing, life-altering, breathtaking. Our 15 minutes of fame can happen. You just need to, take the opportunity for yourself to go out there, pound the pavement a little bit, get away from your daily grind of your 9 to 5, go to the bank. All you have to do is pick up one roll of quarters, ladies and gentlemen, and it could turn out to be the best thing you ever done in your life. Well, that's going to go ahead and do it. Enough of that, right? I wish you guys the best this weekend. I want to hear about some incredible finds. If you guys have coin questions, there's our email, info@livecoinqa.com. We are receiving a record amount of emails, but we also have a just fantastic panel that is happy to see your emails as well. Let's go ahead and talk about what you have. Maybe we could help out in some way or form. Plus, we also have the deepest network of all the main attributors out there that we could use at our leisure. You want us to talk to a Ken Potter or a Mike Diamond or a Joe Cronin? These are all main attributors for errors and varieties that we could certainly help you out with. But let us know. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Hit that bell for instant notifications. Hit the dislike button if you don't give two rats bleeps about me or my channel. Of course, there's going to be at least 10 of you. But that's going to go ahead and do it, ladies and gentlemen. Love you bunches. Best of luck in all of your hunting endeavors. We'd love to hear your favorite coin. Go ahead and post it below. You guys take care. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.